Hello YouTube and Patreon, this is Nathan P. Butler, and this is our project update for the month of September of 2020. It is a little bit earlier in the month that I would usually be doing this by at least a few days. We're only around 3 weeks into the month rather than sort of in that 3 to 4 week kind of gap here, but I'm trying to make the best out of the time that will be permitted to me here so that next weekend, hopefully, by that time, I will be through with the last of the editing of all the From the Star Wars Home Video Library episodes that were recorded way back on August 2nd that I'm still working my way through, so that hopefully I'll be able to record some more stuff next weekend. So kind of shifting this a little bit earlier in the month than usual to be as productive as possible in that last week. It does mean, though, that there's not a whole lot to talk about this time because it has been a productive month to a degree, but not, again, in stuff that you would necessarily see as much, because a lot of it is work on the books, or the book. I say books, plural. It feels like it's multiple books, but it's really just the second edition of the original one, but it feels like a whole new thing, especially with the hundreds of new pictures being taken, but we will get to that. So, first, let me thank all of you who are backers over there on my Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com/Nathan P. Butler, and there are 3 tiers over there. If you want to get your name in the thanks in episodes like these, in the credits, and would like to get your name into the Patreon thanks or Patreon credits page, whatever you want to call it, on or in the second edition of A Saga on Home Video when that comes out, probably in first half of 2021 right now is what's being projected. Then what you'd want to be is at least a traveler through the Butlerverse. That is the $1 tier, but everybody above that gets the same thing as well. The travelers through the Butlerverse at this point include Chris Walker, Austin Pierce, Daniel Marchant, Kevin Kreiner, Tony Jenkins, Jacob Kapoor, Michael Torson, Ben Abrams, Jeremy Goss, Preston Ellis, Justin Richard, and new member of the Travelers, Caleb Owens. Welcome, Caleb. Those who jump over on Patreon may want to join the Denizens of the Butlerverse. That's the second tier. That's the $5 and up tier. You get the same thing the $1 tier got, but you also get those exclusive audio commentaries that I put together, at least 2 each month. Right now, focusing on the Clone Wars primarily, but I'm hoping sometime in the near future, when I finally have some time, we may be talking like Thanksgiving break or semester break, but sometime to be able to finish out the other 2 volumes of Forces of Destiny. But in any event, circling back to the Denizens, who are they at this point? It's our largest group. We have Jeff Rabjohns, Dave Broadway, Matt DeRochers, Joseph Blankenship, Travis Taylor, Andrew Gilbertson, Walker Langstrat, Kyle Pellegrini, Jeff Ellis, Joey Zitzman, Stephen Malicia, Robert Medina, Bobby Craig, Jeremiah Mustard, and Jason Hunt. Yes, that's quite a large group. It is, I believe, the biggest group at this point. And then we have that top tier. These are the folks who get a little something extra in the sense that they get what the other 2 tiers get, but they also get the chance to do that monthly Q&A that is exclusive to the members of the Nobility of the Butlerverse, that $10 tier. These are folks who get to have access to question collection threads on Patreon where they post their questions or their messages to me that I then gather together and use at the beginning of the following month for an exclusive video that is anywhere from sometimes 20 minutes to like an hour plus long to answer all their questions, respond to all their stuff that they get month after month after month after month. It's kind of a cool thing. I actually find that those are able to be a little bit more relaxed, a little more conversational in tone than maybe episodes where I'm covering a product and need to focus on specifics about it, or something like this where there's sort of a dedicated format to it, such as it is. Whereas in those cases, it's really just the format kind of determined by what is asked. We talk Star Wars stuff, we talk non-Star Wars stuff. Last time we talked about tips for working at home in the midst of COVID, for those who haven't been working from home for very long and need a way to kind of have the right mentality to get through that without either slacking or overstressing themselves, since I've been doing that since January of 2015, working from home with my online teaching position. A little bit of everything, basically. So if you're interested in that, again, that is a $10 tier. That's Nobility of the Butlerverse. And those members are, and I'm not going to do it by memory here, but I try to do it by memory every time I actually record the Q&A videos. We have Benjamin Handelman, who is the original Patreon supporter for my Patreon. And we have Aaron Melzak, Andrew Bettis, Brian Snook. We have Jonathan Pickens, Sam Howard, Jonathan Comfer, Ennis, Matthew Hardesty, and Connor Steyerman. All right, so what have we seen in the last month? If you are over on the Patreon, then you've got access to a handful of things depending on your tiers. The Denizens and the Nobility have gotten access to the 2 new audio commentaries for this month. These were actually a quasi two-part arc, which was Mercy Mission and Nomad Droids, which gave me a chance to, among other things, do a dramatic poetry type reading a couple of times of the theme to Droids from the 1980s, which was just fun, because those are some bizarre episodes. Now, coming up for the commentaries, of course, the next arc is the Umbara arc with Krell, right, which is awesome. Great arc, fun commentaries to do. That'll take us through October and November. So October 1st, October 15th, November 1st, November 15th. Those will be when the releases are done for those 4 commentaries. At this point, that's as far as I have recorded. I'm still getting the last of my notes for the Slaves of the Republic arc, and then hopefully in the near future, I'll be able to sit down and start belting out more commentaries to get a little bit ahead still. Really digging it now that I'm in the latter part of the Clone Wars, where the episodes are so much better for the most part, to be able to sort of keep that momentum going and the interest. And I have found that I can record at night with my son sleeping on the other side of the same wall, and he doesn't wake up. Yes! Which gives me a chance to record that a little bit more. So, that said, expect the Umbara arc coming. The Droids arc is already available. Then, of course, the Nobility of the Butler Universe get their exclusive Q&A video answering their questions for the month of August at the beginning of September. That was released on September 9th, and it was Q&A number 33. Yes, there's been a lot of these. Remember, if you are a member of the Nobility of the Butler Universe, make sure you check out the September 2020 collection thread. That's where you can post your questions to have them used in the October 2020 exclusive Q&A. Now, of course, not involved in podcasting directly anymore, so nothing to speak of there, although I did want to put in a plug here. He doesn't know I was meaning to plug it. But Daniel Contreras, who has been somebody who's been a big fan of Star Wars podcasting for years, was a big supporter whenever I was on Beyond the Films and elsewhere. He has started up a new website that's kind of in somewhat of the tradition of my StarWarsFanWorks.com, which now has gone from originally being a home for Star Wars fan audio, like a hub for that community, to being something that's just my stuff. In fact, most of my stuff isn't even there right at this point. It's basically just a timeline and, a blog and stuff like that. And in the tradition of Starkiller Sound, which was something that Joe Harrison was working on for a while, he has now sort of picked up the torch of that and has developed a new website called StarWarsNowThis.com, playing off the phrase, now this is podcasting, but as far as I know, no relation to the podcast of the same name, where basically he's sort of creating a catalog of all the different Star Wars podcasts, past and present, with the individuals involved in hosting it as sort of like a reference work, a historical work, so to speak, to keep that information alive out there, which I think is pretty cool. So it's StarWarsNowThis.com. I have no affiliation with it other than the fact that I consider Daniel a friend, and he's doing good work over there, so I wanted to point that out. It's really kind of a cool approach that he's taking to try to give us a way to sort of remember the community, not only as it is, but also as it was, which is pretty neat. Now, of course, most of the stuff that I'm putting out at this point is through YouTube, if it's not working on the book. Had a lot of weekends in this last little stretch here where a lot of time was sucked up by stuff I had to get done for work so that I wouldn't be stressed out and overloaded during the weeks. Had some taking apart of stuff in our living room to be able to make it into something that works a little bit better as a living room instead of just a storage space, and had a family birthday thing recently, so not as much time to record as I would have liked, but again, I wasn't, for the most part, recording stuff because I had recorded so much back on August 2nd that I still have 5 things left to edit from it. But that allowed me to sort of deal with that stuff while still, when I got a chance to edit, put out content without having to do new recording sessions for the most part. So we had 9 new episodes from the Star Wars Home Video Library out since the last of these updates. We had episode 323, which was a Walmart store shelf display video player for a Millennium Falcon toy. It was a little bit weird. Episode 324, which is the Empire of Dreams Emmy screener DVD, this time with the actual original cardboard pages for it from the original screener book back then. We had episode 325, where we started to look at some Japanese DVDs. In this case, we looked at the Japanese original trilogy DVDs from 2004 and 2005 in that episode. Then episode 326, we looked at the Japanese prequel DVDs from their initial releases. 327, we looked at the Ewoks telemovies, Ewok cartoon, and Droid cartoon DVDs from Japan. We also took a look in 328 at the Clone Wars Micro Series DVD releases from Japan. Then we finally moved away from Japan for episode 329 to look at a UK HMV exclusive version of Revenge of the Sith on DVD, which had like a special slipcover. And then in episode 330 jumped over to Australia to look at their version of that, plus the other two prequel films that they had exclusive versions of from Easy DVD that didn't have equivalents even over there in the UK. And then finally the last one released at this point was episode 331, which was looking at the Malaysian DVD release, or excuse me, not the Malaysian, the Thai. I don't know, my notes here said Malaysian. The Thai, as in from Thailand, DVD release of Revenge of the Sith. So lots of similar products sort of lumped together to be able to make the comparisons as we go. At this point, for what it's worth, as my chair creaks, this shelf is nothing but stuff that needs to be covered still. There's a few things down here that still need to be covered. There's a couple things up here that still need to be covered. Yeah, so, and there's stuff in my closet. There's a few other things. So there's quite a bit still to do episodes on. It's not like I'm going to run out of content anytime soon, primarily because of some recent UK releases and the generous donation into my collection of his collection by Matt Fry relatively recently. Well, I say relatively recently. It doesn't even feel like it's that recent, but I'm still going through the stuff because it was a lot of stuff and I haven't had a lot of time to record. I will say, because people keep asking, am I going to cover the steelbooks from Zavvi coming out of the UK? The answer is yes. I have 3 of them already back here on the shelf. You probably can't see it. They're behind my head. They're kind of where my finger's pointing now. Yeah. A New Hope is one that I ordered myself that never arrived. Lost in the mail. More BS delivery shenanigans happening here. I have horrible luck with that stuff, but I like to think that it's just because of sheer volume. I order so much stuff that the odds of me having something go bad are higher than they are for most people, so that hopefully this crap isn't happening to everybody. But my A New Hope from Zavvi never arrived. Thankfully, Brian Snook, who is a Patreon supporter, a friend of mine, he stepped in and he had wound up buying 2 of them and sold me his spare, so thank goodness, took care of that. And then good friend Julian Smith over there in the UK has been fantastic about helping me get UK stuff over the years. He is acting sort of as a go-between, and he has helped. I basically sent him the funds, and then he's picking up the different Zavvi steelbooks for me, and all the new black slipcover UK releases, all 33 of them from August 24th. And as he's getting those, he'll be sending them in batches to me from the UK to here. Right now, I believe last I heard, all of the stuff for the black slipcover releases from August, those are all ready to go. So we're going to figure out a FedEx shipment to get those sent over here. Then when the prequels finish up, he'll send me the rest of the prequels. When the sequel trilogy finishes up, he'll send me those and so on. He has already sent over Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back, which finish out the trilogy for the original trilogy with the one that Brian sold over to me from his spare. Those are the ones sitting back on the shelf so that I can cover sooner than the others. But yes, there will be coverage, but we're talking about travel times involved here. But it's been much, much, much smoother to simply send money to Julian, have him get them in the UK shipped to his UK address, and then him just put stuff into one big package and ship it over here to me. It's been much more safe in that regard, it seems, because it seems like his packages, because I guess they're bigger or whatever, or maybe because of the shipping method used, seem to be much less likely to get lost in the mail coming over here than those individual packages that Zavvi sends out. So I will be covering those. That's just not going to be anytime super soon because I don't have them yet. It takes time for the whole shipping process to happen. Now, before we leave YouTube, one quick thought. I generally am not someone who pays that much attention to things like views, to things like subscriber counts and stuff like that. What I care about usually is the conversation. Being able to put this out there and engage in the comment section in some interesting dialogue about the various products, be able to answer questions and stuff like that. And hopefully have some folks who like the home video stuff jump over to that Facebook group so we can engage in even more conversation and collective excitement over that type of collecting collectively. Well, I did know, I finally looked at the numbers the other day. I hadn't in a while, but we at this point we're over 5,600 subscribers on this channel, which is not something I ever really necessarily expected. I remember being shocked when it got to 1,000. But But that's a lot, and I thank you all for being interested enough to subscribe, whether you're still watching or not, I guess. I know I've subscribed to a lot of things that I haven't watched in a while, but hopefully most of you still are. I would say, though, that, again, it's never been the big thing. If you want to subscribe, subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, don't subscribe. It's all about what you get notifications on, right? I mean, you're not hurting my feelings if you don't. You're not really boosting my ego that much if you do subscribe. It's just, it's a way to get yourself notified if you want it. You're not going to see me here like a lot of the YouTubers like, holla at your boy, hit that, mash that subscribe button, hit that notification button. No, that's not me. That's really not me. No, just not going to happen. But, you know, I do appreciate it for those who use the subscription to be able to keep watching, because it gives us a chance to have that continued dialogue with a lot of folks who post in comments frequently to be able to talk about the home video stuff and whatnot. That said, given that I place such a value on that continued conversation and civil conversation, yes, I do make frequent, well, not frequent, but lately I've had to make frequent use, but usually not as frequent use, of the hide user from channel command. I'm more than happy for criticism. I'm more than happy to have someone say, hey, I think this is wrong, let's look into this. Hey, here's some information that you can follow down. But even if you are providing information, as one gentleman tried to do this last few days, if you do it by being a dick, hide user from channel. That allows them to continue watching, that allows them to think they're continuing to comment, or at least to comment in a way that only they can see, but no one else will ever see their blather, nor will I. I love the conversation, I love the comments, I love being able to have those conversations, because, you know, this is stuff that doesn't get discussed in a lot of fandom circles, unless it's a home video group that's dedicated or something like this. I really enjoy being able to engage in that, but I'm not going to waste my time with people who want to be douchebags. So, you know, if you have something negative like that, if you want to come in and start swearing, if you want to come in like, I'm not going to actually watch any videos when something is posted about Solo or Last Jedi. Instead, I hate Solo and Last Jedi, so anytime I see something with that in the title, I won't watch. I'm simply going to go off on a diatribe. Bye. But enjoy shouting into the void by being hidden from the channel so that you can at least see yourself and feel better with your blathering without us having to be subjected to it. So, just something to say. Yes, I do make liberal use of that hide user from channel button when that type of thing happens. It doesn't happen very often, but it just seems like in the last about 2 weeks, I want to say it's happened maybe 3 times, which is a ridiculously high amount for this channel in the span of just that short period of time. So, I know probably more channels are like, that's nothing. Yeah, it's a pretty civil group of people usually who watch these videos. But sometimes not. And to make sure that there's productive conversation for those who are, bye-bye for those who are not. Anyway, so the last thing I guess is what's going on with the book. Lots and lots of new progress with the book at this point. One thing that is sort of a good news, bad news thing, and I can't remember if I mentioned this in the last video because I don't remember when I actually made the decision. The first book, at the back of it, had a chapter called Checklist of Items Discussed. And it basically had a giant set of checklists for everything covered in the book, except for in like the tips on collecting chapter. That had like the name of it, the product number, the format of it, a little box where you can use it as a checklist, and a little note that you're more than welcome to photocopy those specific pages to use them as your own checklist, blah, blah, blah. But it was huge. And that was before the book itself was approaching like the 500-600 page or so mark. So what I've done is I've decided that I am not going to be updating that for the second edition. That Checklist of Items Discussed chapter is cut. In its place, within about a year of the next edition coming out, I hope to be able to put together a live running Excel file, a spreadsheet, that I can make available on my website for those who want to get something that's a lot more useful than just photocopying a piece of paper, that is sortable, that they could use to help track their collections just as I am tracking mine. I haven't started on that. I'm waiting until the book is done, but that is something I'm hoping to do as sort of a next project once the book is already out there. And I think it'll be much more versatile than having it in the book. And it also saves the book some length and a lot of really tedious last stuff to get done for the book before it can actually see publication. So that is a change. Beyond that, the last few weeks that I have been able to do much of anything, I've mainly been taking pictures for the book. I got to the point where I want to say I took about 500 new pictures, and I'm in the process of whittling those down, finding the ones I want to keep, cropping them, getting them the right size, inserting them into the book. I think I still have about 200 pictures to go through. That's what I'll be doing after I get this recorded. And yeah, slowly working on that. Once I get all my pictures to insert cleared out, that's when I'll print another physical copy to do another line edit to be able to start writing some more stuff. So right now we're in sort of a picture phase for the book. It's looking marvelous. And yeah, I hope you'll stick with me to be able to check that out when it finally is released. But I can't imagine it happening during 2020 at this point. I expect it's probably going to be a first half of 2021 kind of thing. There's not a ton of writing still to do, but there's some, and there's a lot of pictures that still need to be taken or that still need to be inserted, so I know they don't need to be taken again. Right now I'm really focused on getting everything inserted so that I can then sort of recreate a checklist to make sure that, yeah, I get pictures taken of the stuff that needs to be taken, but I also don't accidentally retake pictures of stuff I've already taken pictures of that I just hadn't inserted yet, which is a waste of time. So work continues apace on the book and on getting the episodes edited from the Star Wars Home Video Library to push out here, and on getting the notes to record more commentaries for Patreon. Most of that, though, is stuff happening behind the scenes you're not necessarily seeing that much of right now, but certainly there's, as always, still more stuff on the way. So with that, we will wrap up this monthly update. I know schools are opening across the country in many cases. In our case, they're slowly shifting back to in-person learning over the next few weeks, but then it will be. So especially if you are someone in school or have school-age kids, be safe. Hopefully they will be safe. Have a good month. I will catch you in October as we get closer and closer to the end of this insane year that is 2020. Have a good one.